with Hachani there on the right. MaRin, first pick, first, banning out a Karma. As we already saw Karma, well, at least once tonight. It was actually very, very strong. Now, if you look at what Hachani is banning, he's actually banning 2 MaRin's picks. So he said, hey, MaRin played 2 games of Lissandra, and while it was a 1-1 split, it was something he did very well on. So gonna drop the ban there, and a ban on Annie as well. And, you know, for what I saw MaRin play, you know, pick and ban, it was primarily just top laners. So thinking about, you know, playing to his strengths, maybe he's confused about the Annie ban. It's like, dude, I don't even play Annie. But it's still a very, very strong champion. You can see MaRin banning out a few meta picks of his own. They're in Fiddlesticks, and of course the Caitlyn ban, we will all grow to know and love. Now, Cassiopeia still available. You probably want to see a ban there if you're Hachani on that before giving MaRin kind of the next round. Xerath was a champion that was banned early on in the first few rounds. There are probably a couple that I am missing, so I'm still interested to see what this last ban is for Hachani. Waiting to see what, there's the Azir, but we were talking about Cassiopeia. That is the definite first pick possibility. Although hovering over Udyr should not be the lock-in. Yeah, and there is the Nunu. Alright, so Nunu's locked in. Will we see Nunu versus Cassiopeia? That sounds like a terrible matchup. Cassiopeia with, I guess, yeah, it comes out with a little bit of sustain. If you grab a Hextech Revolver, maybe that gets you the sustain that you need, but you need mana to come back in some way. And specifically, this patches Cassiopeia not super great in the mana department. Let me tell you, you hit level 2, and you think, hey, let me just skill up my Twin Fangs and go super ham on this guy. Not something that's possible thanks to the new increased mana costs Cassiopeia has to deal with. Trying to think to myself, at what point you just try to play the sustain war. Sivir, a pickup that would work out very, very well for Hachani, but can he figure it out in time? Spell Shield would be pretty great, and he's going to go for a sustained matchup, so you can build Spirit Visage there on Hachani, keep that magic resistance going, and health coming in as well. Of course, also probably will look for a Will of the Ancients as his first probably major itemization there. Should actually be a decent item to buy versus MaRin. Not necessarily super great overall of a spell vamp. Not a stat that is really too coveted nowadays. But when you're looking to sustain, when you're looking at a good lane matchup and a great item for Vladimir, kind of floats to the top of the list. So it'll be exciting to see Vladimir here. Traditionally kind of weak early on, unable to put the pressure onto Nunu, which is one of his major vulnerabilities, getting past the early game. We'll see if he's able to, you know, stay alive and, you know, take it home in the best of 3 series to decide which player will advance. Of course, like I said earlier on in the bracket, we already saw, I believe it was Someday advance out of our first group stage, but now here in the finals of our second group, Hachani coming out of with a victory over Bliss, and of course MaRin, you just got a chance to see him play versus Peekaboo. So last games of the day coming in, and I gotta say, liking the Vladimir pick, but is it enough? Nunu just so abusive as a 1v1 solo laner. Kind of what the doctor ordered here. We're gonna see, I believe that is armor, ability power, and mana regen for MaRin's Nunu. So he'll be getting a little bit of AP back, as well as putting out a little bit more damage, as well as, you know, of course, some defensive stats in there as well in forms of armor. Although I think that was actually magic resist instead. So yeah, that's what you can see in the blues here for Hachani. Is going to pick up magic penetration, magic resistance, ability power, and then I think there was a little bit of extra health and armor, or just, I think it was actually just health there. So Hachani, mastery page, fairly standard. Is going to pick up some extra cooldown reduction, points at all the ability power and penetration that you can get on that page. No points, interestingly enough, in spell waving or blade waving, 2 very, very popular attributes to get yourself. And so no real surprise there. The surprise would come once we actually start this game and get it underway. And, you know, after looking at masteries and everything, and considering the champions, You know, Nunu is a hard guy to bet against, but if there's one champion that does have the sustain that it takes to go up against him, you used to see champions like Aatrox, like Irelia, very, very high sustain champions go to the top lane whenever you saw Nunu, and then just all in him and try to kill him off. But hate to break it to you, man, when you are leaking, you don't need you need something to plug the holes. And so we'll see if that is the answer here. I would have loved to see a Sivir, but stopping the bleeding here is something that Vladimir never super fond of doing. Actually, likes to keep it flowing. See how well his flow is coming into this game. So excited to get this game at number 1 in a best of 3 series here tonight. Formerly saw an SKT team kill, or an SK team kill earlier on. Of course, we did get our fair share of K-team kills in our first bracket of the night. So we're taking a couple more minutes to load into the game here before we get things back underway. Now, keep in mind, this is the last series for tonight, but don't go anywhere, because we will be having not only rebroadcasts of this for other time zones today, but we'll also be, scheduling our next broadcast, I believe, 3 days from now. So you'll want to come back on the 8th and continue to check out the Solo King Korean 1v1 tournament here on Azubu TV, or you can alternatively just hit the follow button right down below and let you know whenever we go live with the Solo King tournament. Of course, we'll keep you up to date with Azubu TV as well, and do want to thank you all for not only supporting Azubu TV, but supporting this tournament by coming out, tuning in, and watching some of the best players in all of Korea. So thank you guys for coming out. We'll see you in just a minute with our first game of this deciding best of 3 matchup coming your way. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Solo King Korean 1v1 tournament here on Azubu TV. My name is Reed Rapid Melton, and I will be your Solo King co-caster, at least for this last best of 3 series between MaRin and Hachani. Now, Hachani had a little bit of a stronger showing coming into this series, but with MaRin finally able to take out Peekaboo, his teammate, coming in here, should see MaRin stay back in base. Not looking too eager to fight at this point, but primarily just because, A, there's not really too much of a point of a level 1 engage, unless you plan on killing the guy or catching him out roaming around. And for MaRin, better to stay back in base and wait for that all-important 4th potion to keep his sustain just high enough to make it through the early phase of the game, and, of course, continue a little bit later on. The most exciting part of the 2v1, or of the 1v1, comes in the first minute and a half, where minions spawn and nobody else does anything. Sometimes there are dance-offs, sometimes we have, like, I don't know, just turns taken, trading hits in the mid lane. It's all kind of just all for show. But now that extra potions have been picked up, minions have spawned, we are out and underway with MaRin versus Hachani here in the mid. 2 minutes in, and you can see Hachani actually bunched the minion wave, so they would focus on one minion to keep that pushing his way. First minion kill of the game goes to MaRin, drawing first blood with an Ice Blast. By first blood, I mean, you know, literally anything that hits Vladimir, because of course he is a Hemomancer. A lot of people think he's a vampire, and I'm like, nope, he is a Hemomancer. Thank you very much. Hashtag lore matters. Gotta get your lore on. But as far as this mid lane matchup goes, we were expecting to see sustain from Vladimir. What we are actually seeing is just Ice Blast after Ice Blast, making his life a living hell, as opposed to that other thing that Nunu does, which is pretty much just make your life a living hell. Relatively decent sustain here from Hachani. Of course, he'll have the extra regeneration from going with the Doran's shield. Only minor downside, I suppose you could say, is that he won't have the ability to build into any other items. Some Vladimirs you'll actually see start with the Ruby Crystal because thanks to his passive, he actually gets a little bit of ability power for all the healthy buys. So might have been okay, but wouldn't have afforded him quite the same sustain that sitting on a Doran's shield will. Now, interesting to see Hachani using his Tides of Blood because that actually costs him HP, and early on he doesn't actually have a Hex Tech Revolver to be able to get some of that HP back, so for the most part, it is unrealized gold that is just kind of out there, not being taken by anyone. So, Hachani versus MaRin. MaRin kind of doing hashtag things Nunu does. Almost said things Nunu do, but MaRin just, you can tell that he's used to playing solo lanes, and more specifically top lane, which is where you actually saw Nunu for a long time as a very solid top laner. And 2 points into Ice Blast, looking to force the sustain out of Hachani. He's gonna have to head back to base, and he might actually die if MaRin's able to walk up Ice Blast auto attack, but do have to watch out that you don't get baited in by a Sanguine Pool. Flash picked up by MaRin, summoner spell that he's been running for the majority of his games this tournament, and by majority I mean 100% of them, but you get the idea. It's not a summoner spell that you're used to seeing, or that you should be used to seeing in 1v1 situations, because it's a win more spell. If you're already ahead, you can flash in and pick up the kill. If you're there to win by a narrow margin, then maybe flash helps you outplay the other guy, but in just the straight up 1v1, I have more stats, I have more health than you are, or than you do rather. It's not a great situation to be in. If you need a little bit of extra, Flash is not going to give it to you, unlike guys like DMX, who will give it to you whenever you want. Return back from base with some extra ability power, Doran's Ring and Amplifying Tome. We'll see if that can amplify MaRin's damage enough. With this pressure on Hachani, you can see it really starting to ramp up here, and MaRin not actually all that bothered in the 1v1 champion matchup, but is having some difficulties here with a wave clear. Wave continuing to get shoved underneath his turret. Really not a whole lot of help, because this is a 1v1. There are no jugglers, there's no other rest of your team, and so actually all of the stats that you guys saw on the scorecards before this game were stats from champions this season. So LCK is a team-based game, 5v5. It's not this 1v1, so stats from that may not necessarily be accurately reflected over the course of these games. We've had upsets, we've had plates being too big or too small. It's been something that you definitely need to keep an eye on. Oh, summoner, or not summoner, but Sanguine Pool being used there for Hachani. I'm a little bit confused as to what exactly he's supposed to, or MaRin is supposed to do at this point if he can't get near his creep wave. Finally finds a way to get up there, but very tenuous situation. Hachani is level 6. With a level 6, he does have a Hemo Plague, and he's actually going to go for the dive here. He takes up a turret shot. Should just walk under the turret, Hemo Plague, go for a spell rotation, and Pool for the kill, but MaRin does have Flash out and could definitely outplay him in that very dangerous situation. So we'll see if Hachani's going to go for it. There is the Flash in there. He's going to Pool, just barely not outside the range of Absolute Zero, and it's MaRin with a perfect Absolute Zero, doing exactly the opposite of that. Now he's gonna go in here, watch this Flash Absolute Zero, perfect positioning too. Hachani doesn't really know what to expect here. The Flash, and there's the Ice Blast. Pool doesn't last that long, and it'll pop as soon as he comes back out of it, just the tip of that Absolute Zero. Hitting him at the end, First Blood. Being drawn in the best of 3 series here by SK Telecom's MaRin. Gonna want to make it home tonight, but who is going home in this best of 3 series? Looks like we're gonna take a quick break after this, or no, actually not. We're gonna go straight into game number 2 as soon as we can get that loaded up. Very impressive new play there by MaRin. He brought Flash, which is not necessarily a summoner spell that you see a lot in 1v1s, and used it exactly for the ability that it's there for. Both players low. Flash helped him get the outplay potential, and Flash just on top of Vladimir, and so that it's, even with the Sanguine Pool, unable to get far enough away from the Absolute Zero, popped just in the nick of time to pick up the kill. That ability power a little bit goes a long way on an ultimate that has, I think it was it 2-for-1 ratio? It's some insane ratio for Nunu's ultimate, which as a tank is supposed to make him more likely to be focused, but when you build the ability power, it turns out to just kill people. Now we're coming in here to game number 2, MaRin versus Hachani. Early ban onto Lysandra. I almost said Cassandra. I was like, is that like Cassiopeia and Lysandra, or just a girl's name? But it is actually Lysandra banned out. Lulu banned as well. And I feel like these players are just kind of thinking to themselves, well, hey, wait a second, what's just a strong solo lane champion? Rather than, you know, actually, you know, involved. But as far as Hachani's concerned, he does have several things to fall back on. He's got Caitlyn if it's not banned. He's got Sivir, which actually hasn't been picked this series. I want to see a resurgence of Sivir. I think the methodology with which you play the game is Sivir in 1v1s with 1v1 rules intact is actually super abusive. You just one-shot the minion wave over and over again. You're gonna get more CS no matter what, and of course you have Spell Shield, which can be instrumental in winning a lot of very, very difficult matchups. So Sivir, it's up, it's available. What is it going to be for Hachani? Now, shouldn't be surprised necessarily by his Morgana. Something, you know, has been shown before. It actually has come out in the top, mid, and support lanes, so very, very versatile, definitely capable of solo laning, but versus what, you might ask? Well, MaRin here to give us the answer. As far as, you know, champions that have been banned or that haven't been banned that should have been, you know, Cassiopeia once again standing out. Caitlyn has been banned, but no other AD carries taken off the map, so oh no. We might actually see sort of a demon sniper situation here from if he goes for something like a Varus, like Xerath, like Lux, even if you want to go for maybe a budget version of the previous two. I want to see those snipes start to come out, but it looks like it might just be a Rumble. You know, we've seen one Rumble already today, and it's actually been pretty effective, but this is more just comfort picks for both players rather than saying, look, we're going to pick meta-specific champions, because for Hachani, you know, he's coming into this matchup as a support player, versus MaRin, who knows all about that top lane, has played Rumble more times than he can possibly remember. So we put all of that experience here up versus Hachani's Morgana, which, to be fair, I am not super confident in. You know, as a support player, when you bring support champions to a 1v1, they better be the darn best support champions you can possibly find, because at this point it is I want to put a few eggs in MaRin's basket. You know, I didn't bet any money on these games, but I did read the polls that were conducted before these matches actually started. Went over to azubu.tv, found their post about the info cards for tonight's tournament, the Korean Solo King fight cards as they were called, and for the matchup between Peekaboo and MaRin, it was heavily MaRin favored 100% for both North American LCS teams that were consulted for their vote. I believe it was Impulse and Coast. And now we're taking a look at the Masteries and Runes here for game number 2 coming up. So for MaRin is already up just the slightest tad, or Hachani looking to, you know, kind of come back here. We've got some mana regen, ability power, magic resistance, and I wanted to say that was armor in there, but I couldn't quite catch the last character. As far as masteries are concerned, nothing out of the ordinary. Does have 4 points actually in... Wait a second, where is he taking that point from? So he has 4 points in cooldown reduction as far as masteries is concerned, as taken one out of the deadly game, and I really don't like that. I guess deadly game doesn't really matter if you survive as long as you kill the guy first. Way to get here into game number 2, and of course, you know, loading in means that we get to see the cool intro video. Of course, big shout outs to Azubu for the production here. Of course, it is being broadcast at, I believe, the Inven Studios, but with Azubu TV kind of at the helm, see a lot of awesome things, a lot of awesome play from, well, You might have guessed it. A lot of awesome players. And so for our last game tonight, of course, hachani versus MaRin. I'm expecting a 2-0 here, honestly, for MaRin, which does mean that we'll get a player interview with him after the games. But if it does go to a 2-1, then maybe it will be MaRin's experience nonetheless that pays off in the end. So still trying to figure out exactly what we're waiting on. Probably just both players to load into the lobby, or not the lobby, load into the tournament. But while they are loading in, you guys can load down to the follow button, which happens to be located right down below the screen. It'll let you know whenever we go live with any Solo King tournament games. Of course, this will be a month-long tournament, so you don't want to miss any of the action. We'll be broadcasting twice a week, and next week we'll be seeing players like Faker come out onto the battlefield to do battle. Of course, the week after that, we got guys like Mad Life and Space to showcase here on the Solo King. Who will be that Solo King? We'll be finding out here in not all that long as we look to finish loading in. But once again, thank you guys for tuning in, for coming out, and new tournament structure. And we've seen some interesting things tonight. So we've seen support 1v1 battles, seen Braum versus Alistar, and we have seen some very, very skillful individual plays. And even when players are kind of having fun with the tournament as a whole, it's gonna be very awesome to watch. Stick around, we'll be right back. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Solo King tournament, Korean 1v1 style here. It's going to be MaRin versus hachani, game number 2. Coming your way. hachani down 1-0, or down 0-1 in MaRin's favor, and he'll be bringing a Rumble to a Morgana fight. I'm not sure how that directly relates to bringing a knife to a gunfight. Who's the knife and who's the gun? I don't know, but regardless, we should see hachani sit in base for a 4th health potion, or possibly a mana potion like we've seen several mid laners pick up, just to keep themselves topped off early. But for MaRin, it really just comes down to the overheated flame spitters. That's what does the most damage, or at least persistent damage. You can see him already starting to get his heat on as he walks up towards the lane. Now, he's going to be there a little bit ahead of schedule, and while he is busy charging up that flame spitter, it's hachani who really is just busy waiting for an extra potion, I believe. She wants something or other. We'll get a chance to find out once we get this game underway. hachani slowly lumbering his way out of base. Morgana, a very, very low base movement speed, so you'll get used to the directed camera kind of following her around forever and ever. Just kidding. Making her way, finally to the mid lane. Morgana able to just throw down Tormented Soil. Only hits onto about 3 to 4 champions, so probably wasn't the greatest skill usage, but you get the idea. Just walking in the lane, Tormented Soil down, and the 10% spell vamp that Morgana gets off of her passes actually going to be fairly meaningful, because you can just throw down the Tormented Soil in a big group, have your meeting on it, and pretty much just do whatever. And by meeting, I mean engagement. So MaRin gonna take a Dark Binding there, more Tormented Soil, just like, what's the counterplay to that? Black Shield specifically going to be great at really blocking a lot of the damage that MaRin has to give, and keeping just a slight CS advantage, freezing the wave in a great place to be here. hachani's really got his lane mechanics down, which is something that you'd actually expect from a top laner, not necessarily from a support player. And we've actually seen supports and AD carries played today, and well, pretty unanimously, supports have actually been doing very, very well. I do say for the most part, but you get the idea. It's exciting to see MaRin now maybe a little bit on the back foot. Got pushed in underneath this turret on the first wave, and of course, now he needs to figure out a way to get them out of it so that he can explain this entire situation, which does not necessarily seem to be going in his favor. Return to Castle 1v1 in Stein. Kind of the name of this game. We've been here several times tonight, but culminating in this 1v1. Hachani versus MaRin. MaRin, of course, trying to prioritize CS and not actually doing an incredible job at it. He's down by about 8 right now, which is about 6 right now. Let me get my math correct. Which is actually a little bit of a big deal. That means an entire wave of minions in the advantage there for Hachani. And I mean, I'd take a free wave of minions if you're looking to compare perfect CS. And honestly, you should be comparing versus perfect CS instead of versus your direct lane opponent. Because hey, you win your matchup versus your lane opponent, but you actually can't CS as well. So always something to learn, and it's been awesome to watch both of these teams kind of learn, adapt, and grow over the course of this Solo King tournament. We listen to what, according to Monty, is one of the most annoying sounds in the game. It is Super Galaxy Rumble. Super Galaxy Rumble. It's like super depressing day, but it's still super for Super Galaxy Rumble because he's so happy all the time. You get the idea. Coming back into lane though, talking about CS differentials primarily, he was only able to buy, let's see, he picked up boots, potions, and an amplifying tome. I don't know, man. That's a difficult set of items to use, whereas double Doran's ring for Hachani on top of all that early sustain that she picked up is probably going to win most trades, specifically if she's able to get the extra MR shred there from throwing down command soil, quote unquote, for kind of forgot what I was going to say there with the finishing of the sentence. Whoa, Hachani down to about half HP there. MaRin still pretty tanky with even just the Doran's shield. It is the I think the highest HP of all Doran's items, so I'm glad that at least it has a small niche right there. But the big issue is for Hachani is that, you know, can he get his black shield up enough to stop from dying to these continually empowered flamethrowers? I don't know, MaRin just really making a case for Rumble being extremely abusive. Now, he isn't necessarily extremely mobile, but I think that actually works towards his favor, because at least once you, you know, go mid lane, or well, once you get to the mid game, rather, not mid lane, mid game, Gnar just gets absolutely massive and can take up pretty much the world. Danger Zone empowered, not enflowered. He is not a he's not a hippie. He's not a baker. There will be no enflowering, but empowering with Flame Spitter is a great way to. Whoa! Look at that equalizer. It'll stop Hachani, remove a little bit of his kill potential, but we'll still keep it back further and further. Electro Harpoons coming out here. Hachani will back away a little bit further. Could have traded Flash for Flash. Maybe, you know, fooling Hachani. I think there's a jungler coming in. Nah, just kidding. There's nobody else but them and us watching them play League of Legends, which, you know, sounds super exciting. And to be fair, for the majority of these games, it has been. MaRin, is he going to win the game here? He's got 3 more creeps here. I think he might actually win the game. He's going to suicide here for this turret. He's got creeps hitting on him. It's MaRin. One more auto attack, and MaRin wins the 1v1 off of forcing Hachani back to base. SK Telecom with a 2-1 victory. Hachani couldn't quite stand up to the solo lane powerhouse that was MaRin. So SK Telecom with a great top laner in the 5v5 is far as their games in Champions go, but in the 1v1, they still got it made. MaRin will advance out of his group. So tonight, let's go over a quick recap of what we've experienced here at the Solo King Korean 1v1 tournament. In the opening brackets, we saw Someday face off against Lilac. Someday took that game 2-0. Nagne beat Sonstar 2-0, and of course, in the 1v1 culmination of that bracket, we saw Someday actually take the win over Nagne. In the second bracket that we cast today, Hachani took a 2-0 win over Bliss. Peekaboo won his matchup, or lost his matchup rather, versus MaRin, who then had to play versus Hachani, and well, you just saw the result of that. A 2-0 for MaRin over Hachani. And that means that we will be getting an interview with MaRin coming up here on your stream in not too long. See if we can get that for you here in just a second. Let me coordinate things to make sure that I have my Korean eyes and ears on this. Of course, we'll be right back with an interview with MaRin.